What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Starfield Explorers, the podcast where we dive deep into Bethesda Game Studios' most ambitious RPG of all time. I'm your host, Antonio, aka Hypecaster. You can find me and the rest of the Megadads team at megadads.org or Megadads on YouTube. If you're new to the show, welcome. You're hyped. You're looking for somewhere that they're going to have like-minded fans that are going to be talking about the game, speculating, going into the deepest news. Welcome. You're right where you belong. We have a video version of the podcast on YouTube. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just search Starfield Explorers. Welcome. I'm joined by my co-pilot and best bud. He is by far the most hyped of the three of us, the illustrious Clayton Howard. What's up, Clay?
What's up, what's up? The hype is real. I'm sucked in. I'm getting notifications on the Reddit constantly. I'm on the Discord. I'm everywhere I can be, trying to get anything I can and throw it right at you guys because I feel like you're kind of just barely hanging on and just kind of like enjoying the hype, but I'm trying to keep us focused, keep us informed, and keep things moving. So
it's not often that you're more hyped than me. Like,
true.
I'm hyped for things that I shouldn't be hyped about, like a Nintendo
Constantly.
Direct, or you know, things like that. I'm like, oh, this is gonna change our lives, and it doesn't really. So like, I'm following you. You're leading the hype train, okay? I am the caboose. Speaking of the caboose, we got a big one here, bringing up the rear. The other co-host, the navigator himself, king of the cosmos, guru of galaxies far and wide, David Jones. How are you, David?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Nice Saturday morning we're recording on. I feel like we're all a little bit more awake than normal, so we'll see how it goes.
We got coffee in you, so you are ready.
I am.
Speaking of, we are coming to you 13 days from the launch of Early Access, 18 days until full launch. Why is there a different launch date? Because Bethesda decided to go with the new route that a lot of games are going to, where you pay us more and we'll let you play this game that you've been waiting for, quote unquote, early. So we all did it. What are your thoughts, Clay?
So I have a lot of thoughts. Were we supposed to engage the hyperdrive, or are we before that point? I'm
They were before.
Okay, we're still in the pre-service.
We're in normal
pre-talk.
Starlight speed.
I get it. Yeah. From what I can hear, it sounds like the embargo is going to lift before the pre-access, the early access starts. So I appreciate that. I love that they're at least going to put the reviews out to the public before the early access starts. So it feels a little less sleazy. I was just telling you guys before we started recording, I would pay all kinds of money to play it early, especially because it makes the difference between playing on a Tuesday on the actual launch day or early access, which is on a Friday. I don't work on Fridays. I have Fridays off. And so to be able to play through the weekend rather than having to start on a Tuesday during the middle of the work week, like that, I'll pay the extra. Now, here's my problem, and I know we're going to I'll save it for later because we're going to talk about our launch day plans, so I'll talk about it then. But I know some people think it feels sleazy. I already get it on Game Pass, so if there's a way to throw some additional money at the game to play it a little bit earlier or not risk the FOMO involved with all of it, like I'm down. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's an odd situation. I mean, we all have Game Pass. We're going to take advantage of the access, but also pay for the upgrade to play early. So I wasn't not going to do it. I'm too hyped, right? I got the FOMO loud and clear. There's nothing that was going to keep me from it. But as my hype level rises for anything, I'm willing to throw more money at it. So yeah, you want to support a developer. In this case, you know, it's a mega one, so you don't have that like, oh, let me get this indie studio, or let me give this studio like Larian, you know, like money because they put such hard work into Baldur's Gate. Like, I'm gladly paying, full price, early access to help them. But this was more of a, at this point, they got their hooks in me. I looked at the Constellation editions, the one that came with the replica box of what something looks like, an in-game box, and then it has the watch and all that in there. And I balked at them even offering it. But now I'm like, let me get one of those. But they're like marked up to $400 something on eBay. So I don't know. Dave, what do you think about the paying early to play?
It to me, it feels less like you're paying early and more of like you're getting it on the release date because it's clearly done, and then people who don't pay are playing it late. Especially, it's Friday, which seems to be a more normal like game launch time to me. Like you said, like that's the convenient time. That's when most people want to buy games. So to me, it's just like feels more like the standard people are getting it late rather than me getting it early. Not a huge fan of it, but I guess you do get some extras. I said earlier that I thought you only got skins. I did look again, and you do get, I think, the first major DLC for included as well by getting the digital deluxe edition. So I guess there's that. Again, I just wish the timing hadn't made it so it was basically like, if you're poor and probably are working tons, we're going to make it even more inconvenient by making you have to start on a Tuesday. So that I don't like. Like, if the game's done, just let everyone play it at the same time. Like, it's clearly ready. Yeah.
It's a weird privilege thing to be able to do it, and then, they have money, all right? They're gonna have sales, they're going to do well, so it does feel a little weird.
And for what it's worth, like, I would have, even if it wasn't early, I would have still bought the $100 version. Like, just because it comes with other things, and I'm excited. Like the playing before other people didn't really play much factor in it. I mean, I was like, oh, good, I get to play it sooner, but it didn't really influence me either way. I feel like that's probably going to be the same for a lot of people with how big this game is, that they're going to want the DLC down the line anyway. But
I'm hyped. I was going to buy us all Starfield like shirts, but I didn't love them. The ones that were out. So I'm hoping post-launch we get some cooler ones, and then we'll all be sporting something together.
Hopefully.
David, I feel the need. Yes. I feel the need for speed.
Let's go.
David, engage the hyperdrive.
Aye, aye, sir. Engaging hyperdrive.
So fast.
I hit the button.
So I think they say in the official lore that, like, you're not going to be around Earth at all. Like, we're going to be, was it 50 light years out is where we start the game? Is that right?
I don't think that's right at all, because I think one of the places that will be in the game is on Mars.
Oh, is it? How many light years is Mars from Earth?
I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
We're all scientists here. We're David's former NASA. I'm former. What is another space organization? I was with the Chinese.
Now you're the Space Force.
I defected back to America's NASA.
Yes, Cydonia is one of the cities that we will be. It's a mining colony that we'll be visiting in the game that is located on Mars, and based on the timeline that Bethesda dropped this week, they mentioned the first step we had was landing on Mars, and then from there branched out even further. So, but to answer your question, as far as I've heard, there's not a whole lot of mention of what the deal with Earth is at this point. Is it there? I doubt we can go there. What's wrong with it? What happened to it? I'm not sure that that's actually been said yet.
On today's show, we're going to dive deep into the latest information that we have and the AMA that recently happened and get into some of the details. So we'll dive in. But first, Lightspeed's segment is the get to know you part of the show, so you can get into our heads and see what we're thinking. And one of the biggest things that anyone anticipating the game has thought about is their character build. In the beginning of these games, you create your character, you select your background, your perks, your different things that build how your gameplay style is going to be. And you can evolve later, but how you start usually dictates a big part of what you're going to experience. Are you good at this or that? Are you, intelligent or not? And what weapons do you use or prefer? And this is huge. I personally spend hours in Character Creator. It's the visual part, what do I want to look like? But I read every single perk. I read every option. I try to figure out, what's going to be optimal and like min-max the whole thing, what perks are on each other. I do want to talk today about what you plan on doing from what you know. Clay, what do you think? What's your build plan for your first run through?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't value it as much as you do per se. At least in the past I haven't. The more I see about this game, the more I realize I'm probably going to have to start like being a little more intentional about it. I do think Fallout 4 had some really fun ways that they did it, and they had some unique stuff that I was like, oh, I want to be able to do that. That being said, my character will probably be pretty combat heavy. Obviously, that's kind of the thing I'm into, so probably we'll focus more on that sort of stuff. Usually when I start a game like this, I usually buff my strength way up there, just get it real high.
Dope.
And then maybe throw a couple like the ability to be able to run and like dexterity stuff. I'll kind of try to increase that. So I'm sure my guy will probably be some sort of gunslinger. I know there's a lot of mention of like being a bounty hunter in this game, so who doesn't like being a cool bounty hunter, So it's pretty generic. It's not very unique. I might do that. I like westerns a lot. I've seen a lot of cowboy hats in gameplay for this. So if I can get my hands on a cowboy hat, I might just become kind of a Han Solo cowboy gunslinger bounty hunter dude. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll see. Maybe I'll get a little fancier with it. One time I played through Fallout 3 and I was a gunslinger and I could only use like a revolver. And then I had like made up this headcanon that I had like a strict policy that I wouldn't kill kids or women, and so anytime I came up against a woman in Fallout, I would hit them with a bat, even though obviously you're killing them, but like in my head canon I was just knocking them out. But I don't know, so maybe I'll be a gunslinger who doesn't kill women. I don't know, we'll see.
You're a feminist, you only hit them with the bats, so that's
right,
great.
not with guns, just bats. Yeah,
in these games, the level up experience and investing some more points in your different stats or unlocking a new perk is literally one of the biggest drivers for me to keep going. I crave the next level up, the next perk, and I try to, if they do have information out there about like what's down the path. I love when you do a build and what you select has a major effect on the gameplay. And there's so many of them in Bethesda games, that perks that once you unlock it, it just changes the game. And I'm really hoping that continues with this game. The high strength sounds really great in this game because I'm really hoping that there's some interesting melee weapons. And like you said, revolvers and the whole Western bit, for some reason, revolvers feel really good in game. Like they did in Fallout, and if they have something like that similar in Starfield, I think that's going to be cool for you. David, what kind of build are you thinking? Again, we don't have perfect information of what the choices are. I have a feeling that stuff is behind the curtain, and they have shown like clips of like what the different perks are and the levels, but I have a feeling they've been intentional about keeping a lot of it under wraps.
Yeah.
What do you think, David?
Yeah,
so
I think you're probably right. And honestly, I haven't really super combed for information about it because I don't know, the character creator is such a joy for me that I don't want to like almost spoil it. It might sound weird to some people. That's almost one of my favorite parts of these games. I will say it's gonna be tough to top what I just did in Baldur's Gate 3, which had one of the best character creators I've ever seen. So might be a lot of discussions about comparing those two and your options. But in past Bethesda games, I actually have, even in Fallout 4, I ended up being pretty melee heavy. So I'm kind of interested to see what we're gonna have melee wise for this game, to see if I can wield some kind of space wrench or space axe or something cool like that.
We've seen a katana, which looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's right, katana. I might end up wielding a katana. Usually, like, I'll use guns, but then I'll just, like, because I play so aggressively, sometimes I'll just run out of ammo so much that I'll just get really good with, like, wielding a melee weapon. The other thing I always like to have is self-healing without items. I hate stocking up healing items. I want a way to heal myself. So if there's any perk or anything like that that gives me some kind of self-healing or quicker self-healing, I always go for that. So yeah, usually it's like high attack, some defense, but any type of self-heals. I think for a roleplay standpoint too, I think we talked about this a little bit. I don't think I'm going to do what I've done the first time I've played most of the other ones, where I literally, like, try to make the character look like me. I've done that quite a few times. I'm honestly getting kind of over it. So I think I'm going to instead just make someone that I like, which I've been doing a lot more recently in games that have character creators, and I've been having more fun with that than having to look at a weird sort of semi version of myself that doesn't look quite right for the whole game. So I'm probably gonna do that a little bit more and get a little bit more roleplay and be someone else. But I still never get super, like, psychotic though. At least, no. Well, Fallout New Vegas I did. I killed everyone in that game, but almost every other one I've always been fairly like, I want to do the right thing. I don't want to kill these innocent people. I want to be a good person in Bethesda land. So, yeah, that's probably my plans.
The playing like a good or bad character, and like what kind of build you have to support that. We'll get into it in a bit when we talk about the AMA, but they're basically saying you're a blank slate, so you can really shape what you want to be. And when you do that, like in Baldur's Gate 3, a game that's really hot right now, there's a lot of choice, and the good and bad and what you do, it's very gripping. So I hope that they do kind of connect your build and your character and what you can do with the choices, because you can give someone XYZ abilities or advantages, but what's really fun is the situations that come up, and then you're like, oh man, I'm so glad I did lockpicking or whatever it is, or hacking, and then there's stuff that makes that feel worth it. For my build, I always kind of see what I like and do a mix of everything and just do whatever's fun as you go, and never really play like an archetype until I do a second playthrough. So like I'm playing right now New Vegas with a melee strength build, but I wouldn't do that type of thing in the first playthrough. I kind of want to, this is a cool thing, I didn't know that was there, let me unlock it, and have no like rhyme or reason except try to do what I think is going to be effective. This time I really want to do a build and say, okay, I'm going to start off with, maybe I do the melee, low intelligence, maybe I do the scientist, I don't use weapons if they're not like a alien technology or something like that. I don't know yet, but I want to challenge myself to do an archetype, and I think I won't know what that is until launch, until I can see all the options, and then just be like, okay, I will have deficiencies. I will have low stats in certain things. I won't be able to, for instance, talk my way out of it. I will have to be aggressive. Maybe I go with something like that, but that's what I'm hoping for. Post-release, our podcast is going to keep going, right? We're going to be talking more about the game, try to do a lot of things that are very focused on a particular aspect of the game. And one of the ways that I think would be fun to talk about the game is if each of us do challenge ourselves to be an archetype and then come back and talk about what our experience is. Do we like it? Do we regret it? Well, like in a spoiler-free way, how does a melee strength build do in this game? How does the scientist pacifist do? How does the, alien weapon wielder loner do? Like, that's an idea. We're going to refine it. We'll be back and talk to you about, more about what our content release plans are as far as builds. Maybe we do give you a day in the life of a Clay is always a sharpshooting, hat wearing, revolver wielding Western space cowboy. I don't know, but that's an idea. If you want that, leave a comment on the show in YouTube comments. Really appreciate it. Other things that we're going to talk about in the future, we're going to break everything down. We'll talk about the intro, how it stacks up to the famous Skyrim. Oh, like what is it? What does he say? Oh, you're up or whatever.
Yeah.
And you wake up from passing out in the cart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is the experience like in your character creation? What kind of tutorial do they give? Like, what are our thoughts on that? We'll get into the builds that we end up doing post-release. We're definitely going to go deep into the perks and talk about what we recommend or regret. We'll talk about the weapons. I have a big feeling that there's going to be a lot we were never shown and topics that we're going to be able to break down for you in the future. From shipbuilding to the different cities, did they work out? Do they feel lived in or not? Did the companions work out or not? Like, which ones are our favorite? How is the enemy AI? Is it buggy, or did the all hands on deck work and it's not a buggy Bethesda game for the first time in existence? We're going to talk about the dialogue system, all sorts of things. So stick with us, Starfield Explorers. Let's get to the main segment, the main topic today. The recent Bethesda Game Studios reveal AMA. People ask their most burning questions and they answer. Clayton, what stuck out to you from the AMA and the information that we got to hear? You're thirsty for that information. You want to lap it up. What did you find out? What stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there were some decent things. Some of it more exciting than others, I guess you could say. I guess one thing to start off, that there's, I think they said over 20 companions that you can have throughout this game. That's a lot.
It's like 4 main ones, I think, that are really fleshed out.
Yeah, at least 4 from the main group of people that you're kind of working alongside. So that was one that was pretty cool, pretty exciting. Curious to see what that looks like. Another question that was asked is, can you play through the entire game without having to kill people? Can you do a pacifist run? And they basically said that you can't completely do a pacifist run. There are certain story elements that you will have to fight your way through in order to proceed. So I know a lot of people like to do stuff like that, and so but it does sound like there still will be ways that you could talk your way out of a fight and at certain points and do different things so that you don't have to necessarily kill a bunch of people. But let's see, other than that, there was some other stuff. There was some cool little details about I'm trying to remember what some of the other ones were. One of you go.
There's oh, go ahead, David. Go.
Oh, I was gonna say the religions. That was I thought might be the stick away. Yeah, there's gonna be 3 new religions in space, and it sounds like you're gonna actually be able to pick and join one if you wish, and may gain things for that. And I thought that was super interesting. And that's another one of those things. That's something else you can add to your role playing into your character, by like being able to choose, like, you know. And then every player will probably... I like that one's not... Like, none of them sound like they're, like, pure evil or anything, which I liked. So it sounds like, you know, this is just going to be, like, player preference is probably just going to pick one that almost sort of maybe matches a little bit of what their thoughts on religion are and help with their role-playing, and I really like that.
What's interesting to me about that is... We talked about how Bethesda games have deep lore. This is a brand new IP... and the opportunity to build a world that feels like it's lived in, that it has a long history. The speaking about new religions really dives into that. It's like, let's go deeper, let's talk about the culture and what people believe, how it influences what they do. And I think that it hints at that we might be seeing the deep lore that I crave, and that would be a great thing. Of the 3 religions, like, one's like atheist, one's like there's a higher being out there that wants us to find it, and then the third one was the most interesting to me. It was like someone is in cryo sleep or something, and although the trip was like short and they weren't conscious for it, most of the people on the ship, they communed with like a being, something about the serpent, and how they walk away with all these mandates to like crush other beliefs. So they spent time with a deity or something like that in sleep when they were supposed to be like in suspended animation or something like that. And that's just wild. It's like, cool idea. Like, did they hallucinate the whole thing, or did they come out like after a real experience and now they're the fervent like gotta crush other beliefs one? That's dope.
I'm really interested just to see sort of the cultural expressions of it, because they went over briefly what the beliefs are, but since all three sounds like they're organized, even the one that sounds more atheist, it sounds like there'll probably be an organized and sort of cultural side to like these too. Like, how do they dress? What are their rituals? Like, how do they go about things? I find like that's all going to be very interesting to me.
Everything that they mention speaks to that they're really leaning into one of their strengths, which was the factions. And this is a group. You learn about the group, you interact with the group, and have quests around that, and there's like a theme to it. And there have been some real gems in Bethesda games around very memorable groups and situations. So they kind of have they lay it out, they say, here's what's going on. It's surprising or quirky or funny or disturbing, and then you kind of dive into it for that quest. And I think that that's like the formula that they're sticking with. So we're gonna have interactions with XYZ religion. They talked about there being a hub of the believers in one of the major cities, and like, the three religions are present here, and it seems familiar. And if they've refined things and gotten better at their craft, then great. I'm down for it. I'm hoping they put their best foot forward, and it sounded interesting to me. There's a jail system, so the AMA revealed that you could be locked up, and then you can, what we assume, like other games, is you can break out, wait your time, pay to get out. Maybe they refine it a bit. Hopefully, you're not in just a standard, not boring jail, but if they evolve the idea, I thought it would be great. They've done this again in other games. I usually try to lockpick or break out of jail, so I'll commit a crime, get caught, I'm not paying no fine, and then get out myself, steal all my stuff back that they confiscated from me, and then book. Any thoughts on the jail system? Exciting, not, whatever, ho-hum?
Sounds kind of similar to what they've done previously. Like every game since like Morrowind has kind of been like that.
Anything else stick out to you, David or Clay, from the AMA?
I will say the companions, they mentioned that companions were going to have more of a role this time than any of their previous games. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'm a little bit nervous about that. Because sometimes having tag-alongs can just be annoying and or a recipe for glitches. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. I generally did not really care for them much in Fallout 4, so I'm hoping that they're not at least more of a choice if I want them to be there, because I don't want some dude clipping through walls while I'm trying to do a mission.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I remember in Fallout 4, the characters would like or dislike things you did based on the decisions you made, which was kind of cool. But at the same time, you do something else and it'd be like, Nick Valentine doesn't like that, and I'm like, no, what? I didn't mean to do that. Like, no, can I take it back? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't want to. So sometimes it was like I didn't realize what I was doing, and all of a sudden my companion doesn't like me as much anymore, and I'm like, oh, come on. So I get what you're saying, David. It's a little like it can be sometimes they add a little too much where you're like, okay, like calm down a little bit.
There's like a feeling of isolation and like complete control that I feel in Bethesda games, and I find like when the companion's there, it feels like it limits that.
It's interesting with the companions because they can be very memorable, right? You can really kind of fall in love with like having this person around and hearing their take on what's happening around you. Sometimes they'll have skills that you can employ and it's like, oh, go steal this for me. So all sorts of things like that. There's a lot of benefits to them. The main one, quite honestly, was just the pack mule where you let them hold your heavy stuff. That's kind of one of the things that I have used the companions for. And I don't know, I'm not too excited about them because for all the times that they say outside of the AMA and then now in the AMA, how much they're really focused on it, because we haven't seen a lot of it yet, I'm going to keep my expectations a little lower for that, because there's just been so much evolution with how companions work in games. I'm hoping that they've taken a light speed jump ahead and give us something different that we haven't seen before, something a little bit more deep than we have in other games. I don't know. A big question mark for me how interesting the companions are going to be. You know, maybe they will be great. We'll see. It says that the space combat is inspired by FTL, Mech Warrior. They talked a little bit about that. The space combat never looked too deep to me. So we shall see. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. To me, it seemed you're in your ship, you're diverting power to different systems. It looks great. It looks fun. But I don't know how deep it's going to be, which is really something that I like in combat. Go ahead, Clay. Any other final thoughts?
I guess the final thing to say is, one of the takeaways I got is just how excited these two developers were for this game.
Yep.
They seem pretty stoked about it. So obviously it's their job to be stoked about it. They've poured their life into this for a while, but at the same time, they seem pretty proud of what they've done. They seem very excited for people to get to try it, to get to check it out, to get to be a part of it. So that made me feel good. I think that they're very proud of this, and I think they should be. And so that, I think all of that bodes well that we're going to have a good experience when this thing launches. So
they did say they'll have a big step out, like, wow, this is the world moment, and that's huge. And they did say that the main quest was about 30-40 hours, just the main quest. So it's going to take you time to mainline it if that's what you're planning on doing. But who does that in these games? Nobody.
Yeah. And that's pretty long for a standard main quest in Bethesda games. Because usually it takes that long to beat it, but that's only because you sidetracked it. The fact that if you only focus on the main quest and it still takes you 30-40 hours, I mean, we're talking about a pretty meaty game here. It's going to be like hundreds of hours probably with side quests.
With the DLC prospect and just the fact that space is supposed to be big, you know, I don't know. We'll see. There's so many unanswered questions, but we're not far from the launch. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this episode of Starfield Explorers. We appreciate you being here. Like, share, subscribe, share it with that friend of yours who hasn't played games in like 20 years, but they've heard of Starfield and it's really hyped, and maybe get them on board. So we really appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time as we travel through the stars.